Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to another round of what we're going to call Monday Night Madness here on LSRTV, getting set to rock and roll for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Experience, live from the Bristol Motor Speedway. Jacob Seelman, Tim Terry, Gabe Wood set to rock it for another round of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and Gabe, it's been kind of a tale of two sides to start off this season. The beginning of the year, all Boomtown Sim, all the time. The last couple of weeks, the top of the pile has gotten shaken up a little bit between Aegis Motorsports starting to somewhat come alive, and then most recently, the defending champ, Dwayne Vincent, back on top. This was a race Boomtown almost got their first win in a year ago. Question is, what do we see tonight?
Well, the same thing we've seen all season and the season last year, Boomtown versus everybody. I mean, you got Mitch Rollo on the pole right now. He's going to be leading that charge. He's got a teammate, a couple spots back there to borrow, and then a little bit back, you got the Steel Horse guys, and then you got more Boomtown guys, and then you get back to the Aegis drivers. Daniel Everhart's qualified in 12th, so there's a couple of those Aegis guys got a little bit of work to do, but they know how to get it done, and those Boomtown guys, they're going to be able to get it done from the front.
And I know, everybody's been talking, and it was even a topic of discussion earlier today that things could be a little interesting tonight on the sim. Gabe, do you expect these drivers to have to deal with a lot of issues insofar as what we've been fighting over the course of the last couple of days, or are we looking at a relatively smooth race?
Well, I think no matter what happens, these guys are going to have to be careful. It's kind of the unpredictable. You don't know if it's just a few sessions that, the net code, that's what's been happening. The guys, just the net code's been getting a lot worse here after the update, and it's the sim's not recognizing where the cars are, and, there could be maybe a foot or two gap and guys end up making contact. We could see that tonight, or like you said, it could be a perfect night, incidents here and there, but I think these guys are just going to have to be cautious and just treat it like it is going to happen, and that's Bristol, really. You have to make sure you don't make contact with people. It's going to happen. Just kind of try and minimize it because you have that threat of netcode.
And Tim, we talk about the fact anytime we come to Bristol on this sim, we have to kind of prepare ourselves for the inevitable chaos that ensues. As a driver, how do you kind of manage everything that gets set to go and know that you're not going to have a long green flag run most likely at this racetrack? It's very probably going to be broken up into a lot of short spurts where it's going to be tough to make up time and track position tonight.
Restarts are going to be key. It's the same thing with every short track that we visit on this sim, especially in those first 5 laps or so. Everybody's bunched up together. You're going to have to get what you can on these restarts, but these guys have raced together for a few races this season. You never know what could be transpiring over 225 laps here this evening. We could see a couple of green flag runs here. These guys know each other. These guys know who they can lean on and who they can't lean on. But we're going to see some very exciting restarts here as we get ready to go racing.
I know, Gabe, and you actually brought it up to us just before we went on air, cold tires, too, on these restarts, because we're going to have a lot of restarts we anticipate tonight going to be key.
Yeah, I ran some laps there in the LSRTV Toyota here. Ran some pretty good times, but coming off of turn 4 to take the green flag, I tried a couple restarts. Those first few laps, especially the first, on those cold tires, they're not heated up yet, not a lot of grip. it's very easy just to kind of let the back end, kind of lose it there off of turn 4, and turn 2 is really not that bad. But it's going to be something to see here off the restarts because we haven't seen all night. We've just had practice and qualifying wrapping up now as the guys get ready to go on the grid. Haven't seen a restart, come tonight.
And we're ready to roll for tonight's Sim Vibe starting grid on the pole, third pole of the season here early on, but Mitch Rollo has been great in qualifying, trying to translate that into a great result. He starts P1 tonight. Carl Shedd, it's Boomtown versus Aegis on the front row.
Scott Eckridge in that 70. We've seen him pull off some good lap times during practice and a little bit slower during qualifying, but he's going to roll off third. Anthony Navarro, pole sitter's teammate in that number 9 machine, is going to roll off fourth.
Row number 3 is Greg Evans in the 23 to the outside, Dan Murray in the 5.
Steve Gottschalk, the Nerfinator, starting 7th. Outside of him, another Steel Horse driver, so 4 in a row. Thomas George starts 8th tonight.
Corbin Hemstreet, yet another Boomtown driver in that 69 is going to roll off 9th. Joseph Theus in that 10th position is going to roll off in that 25 car.
Got Adam Blattel rolling off from 41 in position number 11. Daniel Eberhardt, the 90, going to roll off in 12th.
Two-time champ Chad Cole, 13th. Scott Simley rolling away from the 14th spot tonight.
Couple of champs here in the midfield. It's going to be your 2015 Full Throttle Cup Series champion, Dwayne Vincent, rolls off 15th. David Washington, winner this year in that number 98, is going to roll off 16th.
Christopher Herlow going to roll off the 87 from position 17 to his outside. Tim Matthews in the 54.
Sean Casto and Mike Kelly going to make up the rest of your top 20. And tonight's in-race reporter, we're going to touch base with him here over the course of the race. But Corbin Hemstreet, who finished second in this race a year ago and starts P9 tonight, going to be our in-race reporter. The rest of the starting grid rolling on your screen. And Gabe, we got about a lap before we go green. Who are you watching tonight? I don't want to say what because we know the chaos and the controversy is going to be key, but who is your strong suit here this evening?
I think my strongest person in the race is anybody running that outside lane. Mitch Rollo, he's got the pole, he's got a fast car, but that outside lane with Carl Shedd and DeBarro, all these guys behind him, outside lane's going to be key. But, we've seen a couple races we've seen here on LSRTV. The inside lane's pretty good off the restart, but you just cannot hold it, a couple laps into the run. So look for that outside lane to be strong.
We're looking forward to it about half a lap before we turn the lights out and rock and roll, but we're glad you're with us here on LSRTV and iRacing Live. And a shout out to our partners at Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Experience and Sim Vibe for helping to make this series possible here on LSRTV each and every Monday night. The field going to be in the hands, though, of Mitch Rollo and Carl Shedd as we work through turns 3 and 4. At about 40 miles an hour, pace car eases onto the pit lane, and as we work off the high banks and come to the green flag, Mitch Rollo on the jump as we rock and roll here in Bristol. Quick start for the 96 as he rolls off into 1 and 2. The battle early for second. Scott Eckridge off the bottom, can't hold it down.
Outside lane, DeBarro's got that good run, looking to get the 70 of that Eckridge. Looks like he's going to go after Carl Shedd, but Shedd's going to pull down to the bottom side of the racetrack. Going to try and go after that lead if he can, but can't at 96. And Rollo is going to pull away, so comfortable about your top 5 or 6 are going to run single file, Tim.
Yeah, the 70 finds a spot in the line there in position number 4 up in front. It seems calm for the time being, and about your top 8 or so. Corbin Hemstreet on the 69 on the outside of the number 91 of Gottschalk. He's going to try to find a spot in the line. 25 going to let him in. About top 10 or so now single file.
And I think it calmed down a little bit quicker than we expected all the way back through about the top 20. First one that was knocking on the bumper a moment ago, Gabe, was Chad Cole trying to work over the back deck lid of the 87 of Christopher Herlow. It's going to be hard, though. The only way you're going to see the inside work tonight is that dive bomb move into turn 1 or turn 3 and pull the slide job on him.
Yeah, that's the only way I see that working. The races we've seen, we've had a lot of practice at Bristol, just knowing what these guys are going to do, what the lines are going to do, and we've really seen that top side of the racetrack where these guys are running slowly migrate down. But one thing that's going to be a constant, like you said, Jacob, that bottom side of the racetrack really not going to be the place to pass.
Carl Shed, Tim, I was watching this battle for the lead a moment ago, and it's really tightened up between the top three, but Shed all but got a piece of the wall off turn 4 last time by. No visible damage to that 45, but it kicked him sideways in a big way.
Yeah, the 45's been trying a little bit of a different corner entry compared to the 96 the last couple of laps in. It looks like he's taking just a little bit lower corner entry. 96 smacked the wall there, might have off of corner number 2. Now here comes the 9 trying to get into this mix. Anthony DeBarro wants a piece of the lead. 70 keeping touch with these guys as well, then it's a little ways back to position number 5. But the 45 has been putting pressure on the 96. Question is, can he set up a pass, try to make that move for the lead?
That's going to be the key here, Gabe, because we're seeing him peak about a half groove lower than Rollo through the center of the corners, but he's not chucking it to the bottom like he would if you were going to try what we call that traditional slide job pass. Since we've gone to the new Bristol here where the high lane's the quick way around, you got to wonder how long he's going to be content to ride there in that second position when he's basically the meat in a Boomtown sandwich. He's got Barrow on his back bumper and Rollo out his windshield.
Well, the one thing that's helping that 45 is the fact that that 9 really can't go anywhere. And like we said, that inside lane is not going to work for him, especially this early in the run, only 11 laps in, completing lap 20 this time by when they get to the stripe. But 45 still ducking low, trying that exact same move. And it's amazing. These guys not even racing side by side, but that 70 of Scott Eckridge is catching them just a little bit by bit. And now it's starting to spread out just a little bit, even gap between all the top 4.
And I'm going to be honest, Tim, I'm really surprised here that these guys have settled down like they have. I mean, last year by this time, we had already had 3 cautions in the first 15 laps in this race. It's actually a pleasant change because, you know, we kept talking this whole pre-race about, well, we're going to see a lot of cautions and not get any extended green flag action. At least to start this race, we got a little bit of a run going.
And I think if we do see some of these drivers hit that wall and another guy collect them, that's when we're going to see those cautions start to pile up. The 45 and the 96 are doing a fantastic job keeping off each other for those top 2 spots. See the 96 have a moment, the 45 try to get underneath him or try to get off of him as he tries to collect it in front of him. A lot of respect being shown here by at least these top 4 and throughout the field, as well as we've been green for the first 16 of the 125 laps as the 45 tries to mount a charge here at a corner number 4.
Yeah, and to your point, Tim, these top 4, not only have they done a great job keeping off each other, they've also done a great job at distancing themselves from 5th place Greg Evans. It's a full second deficit now between Scott Eckridge and his Steel Horse Racing teammate back there. So I think early we're at least seeing maybe who the class of these front runners really are.
Yeah, I think this is what we're going to see all night with these guys as the 45 gets a little bit into the wall, but that's going to help us exit. That's weird to say, but that's one of the quirks here at Bristol. One thing I want to talk about, Tim, these guys are catching these lap cars very fast. According to the iRacing, rules, it's really not the lap car's job to get out of the way for the leaders. It's, the leader's job to make the pass. So these guys, if they're racing for position, that kind of puts them in an awkward position, really. Just trying to get away, give the leaders some room. And these guys, they're some smart guys, but, trying to make up that one position extra in points, that can matter. So we're going to see some tight battles, not only up front, but toward the rear of the pack.
And just looking back through this field, you're seeing a lot of these guys single file, not really picking off any positions. The 1 and the 51 nearly have a moment back here with the 80 as they continue to battle. 80 of Mike Kelly now to the inside of the 51 as they go side by side. That's all the way back for about 18th place. Kelly going to take that position and put it back behind the 51. But that's all we're seeing right now. Those quick little passes throughout the field. Up in front continues to be the 96 and the 45, keeping the pace near the front of the field.
Closing in on lap 25, it's getting a pretty good race up here, guys. Tim, the tires not really falling off from these guys. It's very consistent up here up front. Jacob, I believe we got your mic back now.
And what I'm watching here, you mentioned lap traffic, Gabe. We had for a moment a side-by-side battle that I thought was going to play major havoc when the leaders finally got there between Kevin Linden and Sean Boundy, who actually dropped a lap, I believe had to start from the pit lane, but these two have kind of sorted themselves out, the 34 and the 48 now at the tail of this field. And it was about to be interesting, Tim, because when you get side by side and these guys who are slower than the leaders fighting for position, it really creates a true roadblock because there is nowhere to go.
And it's about to get busy here up in front as Mitch Rollo comes up on the 34 of Sean Boundy to put him one lap down. And then there's about a half dozen cars or so, and two of them side by side right now with the 21 and the 48 doing battle just ahead of the leaders. And this could get antsy. It's going to get a little bit nervous for the 96, the 45, and the 9. Could the 45 find somewhere to pounce here maybe and take the lead on lap 27?
Rollo to the bottom of the racetrack already working, and it's gotten heavy traffic in a hurry. The battle's on for second. Anthony DeBarro to the inside of Carl Shed. Shed got pinned behind a lap car, and the advantage going to go the way of the 9.
Boomtown cars now running 1-2, and they both look exactly the same. That baby blue paint scheme, that neon looking good up there at the front. Now, we had a little bit of a gap there with that 96 getting out in front with the lap cars, and now here comes that 9. He's going to look to take the lead from his teammate maybe if that 96 of Mitch Rollo can encounter any more lap traffic. That 45 still trying to work by that 42 of Scott Stenzel. That's your third place driver, Carl Shed. Just got overtaken for second. Mitch Rollo still trying to deal with these lap traffic and got a side-by-side battle here with the guys, the 84 Jimmy North and the 21 of Matt LaCrosse.
Yeah, LaCrosse is one guy that really surprised me as far back as he was in this field, but I'm watching DeBarro right now turn some great laps, Tim. I think of the two Boomtown cars that are out in front of this field, the 9 may be marginally a bit better than the 96 of Rollo, and now we're going to see the battle for the lead as they go side by side in 3 and 4.
Yeah, it looks like the 9 car might be handling traffic just a little bit better than that 96 car of Rollo as Rollo continues to lead. The 43 now going to go one lap down. The 9 going to go to the outside as well. I think that 9 car, if he can continue with the momentum that he has, he might be able to mount a charge for the top spot as they both put the 43 behind. And now the 45 mired in traffic. He's got 2 cars in front of him compared to a little bit of clean air for your top 2.
Yeah, and right now he's fallen into the clutches, Gabe, of Scott Eckrich, who has held a good pace. He's not lost any time to the leaders, but he's not really gained much time on the leaders. He's about 1.1 seconds back. He's hovered that way a lot of this early run, and now you see DeBarro again with a little bit of clear track close in on Rollo. This is where we see which of these two cars is a little bit better, and I like DeBarro to eventually come up here and maybe grab this lead. This was his debut race a year ago, and he looked really good for a lot of the early stages of that event before things got crazy and he ultimately got collected in a late race crash. So I imagine the 1-year anniversary of his first start in this Full Throttle Cup Series, he'd like to celebrate it with his 3rd win of the year.
He's going to want to get it done, but he's going to have to get by that teammate. You were talking about that 70 of Eckrich, 4th place driver, catching that 45 of Carl Shed, but one more driver, look at Greg Evans. He's ended up catching these guys. You were talking about there was about a 1-second gap. Now that they've counted these lap cars, that 23 made some good moves, and he's ended up getting to the back bumper at least for the couple laps ago. Now that gap's coming out just a little bit, but that 23's got a good car under him a little bit halfway through the run.
Yeah, he really does. And, never count out Greg Evans at a short track. He was very good here last year, and he was exceptionally good at Martinsville, which is another half-mile track. I know you drive the two completely differently, but, hey, when you're a short track racer, it seems that mentality translates across all of the short tracks on the iRacing sim. Tim, now we're catching the 21 of Matt LaCrosse, who is no slouch as far as being a car that these leaders are going to have to contend with. I mean, normally we would see that 21 up front trying to battle for the lead. Right now, though, as Rollo almost goes around off the corner, it's going to allow DeBarro through for the lead here on lap 41.
Yeah, DeBarro going to take the lead from that mistake on the 96's part, and we've seen a little bit of that so far this evening from the 96, but not as bad as that slip that we saw on that last lap. Give credit to Matt Lacrosse, though. He's got up on the wheel these last few laps trying to stay ahead of the leader, and so far so good. There's about a second between himself and the next car in front of him, but the 9 car of Anthony DeBarro, sure he's going to get up on the wheel here as well, try to catch at number 21, try to put him 1 lap down, but it seems like Matt Lacrosse has found another gear since the leaders caught him.
Well, Carl Shedd's found another gear since the leaders have gotten held up behind Matt Lacrosse. He has run the top 2 back down. It's only 3 car lengths now between he and Mitch Rollo in the battle for second, and that Rollo car, Gabe, really looks like it's starting to fall away in the 96. The handling is going south on that Chevrolet.
Yeah, it's going... getting a little bit away from him. Looks controllable, but he's just slowly losing it just a little bit. I think it's the tires going away from him, running that hard and really cutting a path through these lap cars. The first 40 laps here for these guys up front. It's kind of just worn out of stuff just a little bit. Looks like he's kind of keeping pace with DeBarro in that 9 as Matt Lacrosse is going to pull up in front of that 9 of DeBarro. Looks like they're going to stay off each other, but Carl Shed looks like to be losing a little bit of ground, not much to that 96 of Rollo.
Yeah, Adam Blattle just went a lap down in the Amsoil machine. Lacrosse in the quick car, number 21, trying to keep the leaders at bay. We are 47 laps into the Thunder Valley 225 here tonight. Still a lot more racing ahead. Anthony DeBarro leads from Mitch Rollo, Carl Shed, Scott Eckridge, and Greg Evans. The top 5 running almost exactly as they started. We're going to step away, but we will be right back with more from the Bristol Motor Speedway after this. You're watching the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series on iRacing Live and LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Welcome back to iRacing Live and LSRTV as we bring you the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Experience, working lap number 57 of 225, and the caution flag has just come out, of course, mere moments before I was going to say we've had one heck of a green flag run to start this race, and that goes out the window, Gabe. what it looks like, guys, is it started around David Washington and Corbin Hemstreet, not Corbin Hemstreet, Christopher Hurlow, and it kind of ended with Hurlow getting tangled up in a wad of cars right around there. So a little bit of chaos here early on, and that's going to incite some pit stops for the lead pack.
Pit stops here. Unusual pit road here at Bristol. Look for the guys pitting on the backstretch to have a little bit of a disadvantage. Race off pit road. Looks like DeBarro is going to have a good lead coming off. Rolo is going to lose about maybe 3 or 4 spots. DeBarro he speeds coming off of pit road, and big contact almost between the 96 and the 70, trying to slow up for pit road, and guys transitioning from the banking and off.
Wow, Carl Shed to the lead, Tim, and that's it. We don't see a lot of speeding penalties around here, but that's killer for the 9 team.
Yeah, he got it coming off of pit road, and he's going to fall to the rear of this running order, and that's going to kill him, at least at this point. We did see some green flag racing in there. Maybe if he has some cautions on this run to maybe help him get a couple of positions back, it would be great. But if we see another 50-lap green flag run, it's probably not going to help him a whole lot.
No, and I want to see if we can check in with our in-race reporter real quick, see if we can't tab Corbin Hemstreet for a moment before we go back green. Corbin Hemstreet, Jacob Seelman, Gabe Wood, Tim Terry in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, boy. I didn't think it'd take this long for us to catch up with you, but we had a big green flag run to start this race. What do you feel about the car, and what do you think your chances are? You're up solid in the top 10 right now.
Yeah, we're just hanging around. I don't think we have the speed to go out and win it, so hopefully we'll get a few more cars banged up and take advantage of that and see where we end up. But, yeah, right now we're just enjoying that first long run, getting used to the track, dialing in our you get into a rhythm in this track, so just getting the hang of that and establishing our position, and hopefully we can get up and get past these 3 steel horse guys right in front of me. 4.
Were you surprised at the early green run? I mean, we had 5 cautions at this point in the race last year.
Good start. Very surprised. I thought we'd get our typical 3, 4, 5 laps in, but we'll see if we can get a few more good runs like that.
We'll let you get back to it, but we'll try and touch base with you here throughout the race here. Good luck.
Appreciate it, Jacob. Enjoy the show.
We're hoping, Gabe, it's going to be a show. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but we have seen in the past where cautions can potentially breed cautions. So are we expecting that on this restart?
Well, I think that question is going to be answered here for the rest of the night. How aggressive are these guys going to be off restart? We've got another 200 laps, or just under 200 laps. So let's see what we can get under this restart, and then we can kind of judge how aggressive they're going to be the rest of the night.
Carl Shed going to lead the field back to the American Ethanol green flag. It flies. Our first restart of the night settles the top 3 or 4 quickly into a single file formation. Shed, Rolo, Eckridge to the top 3 as they're side by side. Dan Murray back there with Corbin Hemstreet and Dwayne Vincent on this restart.
Yeah, top few going to get away clean here, and then we have a little bit of a mess back there. 725 side by side, and that's around that 10th place position. Nelson Rivera trying to take it away from the 25, and will lose that position. Up in front, though, Carl Shed, Mitch Rolo. Rolo had the advantage on the initial start of this race, Jacob. He was able to get away, and then the other drivers that were in the top 4 reeled him in a little bit. We're seeing it with Carl Shed now. We'll have to see how quickly that 96 can reel in that 45 here.
Well, you know what? The problem is I don't know that he's got the same speed he had on the first run. He's fallen half a second off of Shed early on and really into the clutches, Gabe, of that 70 Host Venom Camry of Scott Eckridge, who nearly tags the wall. Rolo gets it in turn 4. These two are kicking it sideways, and we're trying to hold on for all it's worth. There it is. Caution. And that's a parking lot around the 12 of Ross Cato. Cato limping on the inside of the racetrack. He's headed to pit road right here, and I didn't see exactly what started that, Tim, but we obviously see the result. Cato making his first race back since about Atlanta. He's had trouble qualifying through the go-or-go-home system early on, but that 12 has a good chunk of damage.
Yeah, and that really wasn't the 12's fault. The 88 gets into the outside wall and gets into the 12, and then everybody behind starts to pile in, and he gets piled into by the 98 of David Washington. So 12 had nothing, he couldn't go anywhere, Jacob. Tough break for him, and innocent bystander, and that one got swept up by the 88 on the outside.
So back under caution here. That caution coming at lap 67 officially, and we're going to work lap number 69 now. And I want to give a call to actually one of the guys we were talking about just before that caution broke out, Tim, that you mentioned, the 7 of Nelson Rivera. I know it's hard to pass here at Bristol. He and the 99 of Stefan Marinac have both made it look at least somewhat easy, and I'm wondering if maybe there wasn't a little bit of strategy involved in it early on, but they've come from the 30s to run in about the top 11. Marinac up to 9th and Rivera 11th right now.
He and the 25 went at it for a position there just prior to the caution flag, so Nelson fell out of the top 10 because of that quick cross and that quick green flag run. But sitting in position number 11, working his way up, and we never really covered the back half of the pack on that first run. I think he might have gained a couple of spots on the pit stop, but nevertheless just outside the top 10 now. And another driver I want to keep my eye on this run, remember that 21 of Matt Lacrosse that was just ahead of the leaders trying to make his way and keep his way on the lead lap. He was up in about mid-pack at the time of the caution. I believe he just came down pit road. He was running in the top 20, so now he's going to go back to the end of the line. But Matt Lacrosse looked like he was going to have a run if that thing stayed green before we had the caution.
And we're working now the second caution of the race. We had about 8 cautions already, Gabe, in this race by lap 70 a year ago. We're working number 2 right now with 70 laps complete, so we're on a good average. The problem is going to be, yes, we had a long green flag run to open this race, but I said the dreaded word, cautions breed cautions, and that I fear that's what we've gotten ourselves into.
Yeah, it may be, or, we may just have to take it a few laps and let the guys kind of get spread out throughout the field, and then we'll get that long green flag run again. It's just guys wanting to get as many positions as they can, especially on the bottom side of the racetrack. Guys, they don't really want to be on that bottom side, off the restart. If they want to get to the top, they're going to have to do it very aggressively, and, that's what's going to cause these cautions, is guys just being over-aggressive, trying to put themselves into a position to, make up a few spots later in the run, but they end up screwing themselves just off the restart by being too aggressive.
And we're getting set to come back to the green flag. Going to be the same front row as it's been since the start of the race, just reversed from the initial start. Carl Shedd now leading Mitch Rollo as we wrap up our second caution of the night. Scott Eckridge and Greg Evans, a pair of Steel Horse Racing teammates, on row 2. And then it's Dan Murray and Thomas George, another duo of Steel Horse cars, in row 3. Ready for this American Ethanol restart. It goes back in the air, and as we go back under the green flag, tonight's coverage is brought to you by one of our RSR partners, Sim Experience, a premier motion simulator manufacturer with expertise in electronics, engineering, manufacturing, and software development, whose products are utilized worldwide in driver training facilities, homes, simulation centers, and race driver development programs. For more information on the extensive line of products you can purchase from the brand, visit simexperience.com. Sim Experience and Sim Vibe, proud partners of the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series. Carl Shedd, your race leader, by 4 car lengths over Mitch Rollo, but Greg Evans, Gabe, has quietly worked his way after 2 cautions into the number 3 position. Solid drive for that 23, who, as we've said, he's good on short tracks, and he's quiet until it's time to pounce.
He did a really good job there off the initial start. It was running about 5th, about a second back, and then the leader started encountering that lap traffic. He kind of sliced and diced his way, especially when those guys started encountering that gaggle of cars. And then Rollo and DeBarro started battling for that lead. He took advantage of it and caught down that 70 at Eckridge, and that was when the caution flew. But now he's worked by Scott Eckridge, and of course DeBarro had to come in, or at least had to give up all his positions by speeding on pit road. Speaking of him, he's running 17th, so a good recovery so far. Picked up about, about 10 positions from that initial start, the first restart about maybe 15, 20 laps ago. So he's doing a pretty good job for having a speeding penalty at Bristol.
Yeah, Tim, I'm impressed with what the 9 has done, slicing his way back through the field, and he's really not done it by burning his stuff up too much. He's just been very opportunistic on these restarts, made what time he can get, and made the passes where it makes sense, and that's a mark of a very intuitive race car driver. It would make sense. He's won twice this season, and he knows how to get around this racetrack. Says it's one of his favorites.
And he's got 3 drivers right in front of him. Here he goes to the inside of Nelson Rivera to try to pick up a spot. Chad Cole right in front of him. 7 and 9 going to go side by side. 9's going to have to throw it into turn 1. Can't do so. Gets a little bit loose down the straightaway. Going to fall back behind the 7, and then he's going to have to reset that spot back up. And we talked about it, especially going into these corners. You really have to set up your spot and hope you're clear by the other end of the corner. 9 car was not clear, got a little bit loose, and now he has to reset his sights on the 7, the 8, the 4 ahead of him. There's a lot of strong cars in front of him as he continues to get a little closer to the top 10.
Well, and the other thing to that, Gabe, was it wasn't just that he wasn't clear. I think because he wasn't clear, he had a little bit of a tap from the back end of that 7 and Nelson Rivera, and that was what sent him down the track. It wasn't just that he lost it on the bottom. There was just a slight bit of contact.
Well, maybe I didn't see it, but that sounds very true. Just the fact that these guys, that's the only way they really can pass on the bottom. And we saw DeBarro do it, and he's probably done it a couple times that we haven't seen, is just using that slide job, and that's what happens. Either you're not clear and you end up pulling in front of the guy, or the guy really doesn't like the fact that you did it, and he gives you a little bit of a bumper to make sure you know he was there, and really didn't appreciate that. It looks like we got the 12 of Ross Cato on pit road down there. I saw that. But yeah, these guys settling out again. Looks like DeBarro, you said you had to set it up a couple corners before. I think you have to set up these passes at Bristol about maybe 3 or 4 laps in advance, just because you have to get that run, catch him, and make sure you were in that right position to pull that slide job.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to keep tabs on Anthony DeBarro's charge back through the field. We are 87 laps complete, and as we cross the line, the gap between the 2 leaders, Carl Shedd and Mitch Rollo, half a second between the 2, and they've been running almost identical lap times, though this last time by the stripe, Rollo cut into it by almost 2/10. So maybe on this run, he found what he needed or has needed to start getting back closer to that 45. The gap is shrinking a little bit as we get closer to traffic again.
And those 2 have pulled away a little bit from position number 3 by about a second over Greg Evans, Scott Eckridge, and then there's a little gap back to the 24 as well. So closest battle within the top 5 may very well be 3rd, but got a little lap traffic up here for the 45 as he tries to contend with the 87, trying to go to the inside, and he has to back off. Here comes the 9 for the lead position. 45 trying to get around this traffic, causing him a little bit of grief here.
Yeah, and that's a former Boomtown Sim car in Christopher Hurlow, who has gone at it for the rest of this season as a privateer team, has picked up some sponsorship that we'll talk about here in a moment. But right now, we're watching the battle for the lead. Mitch Rollo is all over the inside of Carl Shedd, has to back out of it right there through turns 1 and 2, and now they'll fall single file as they work around the 42 of Scott Stenzel, but Shedd is sliding around, and Mitch Rollo trying to capitalize.
Stenzel got loose there on the bottom just a little bit, but he ends up collecting it, and he's going to allow Rollo to get by. So now they got a little bit of clear track ahead of him, about a straightaway between the 45 and the next lap car, the next tail end of the lead lap car. At 96, yeah, you said he's picked up some speed. He's lit the afterburners and been able to catch him. Oh, the 45 gets in the wall.
That was a solid hit, too.
Solid hit for that 45. I was going to say, look at the way this track's darkening up. Look at just going in turn number 1 right now. Look at how dark it's gotten compared to where we were practicing about 3 hours ago. These guys have been putting a ton of rubber down. I'd have to say between all these guys, it's got to be 2,000 laps.
Oh, there were some guys that put down 200 or 300 laps by themselves in practice. I know Shedd put down a massive amount of laps here prior to qualifying tonight, so I would believe that tally. Closing in on lap 100, we're going to give you a look at the Gary Mercer Trucking Full Field rundown here in a couple of moments. But, man, this battle for the lead got dicey around the 87 of Christopher Hurlow, and I want to go back and highlight him for a moment, though he is right now running 2 laps down, has picked up some sponsorship from Simlutions on this car for the rest of the season, is running at it as a privateer team, had a split from Boomtown Sim a couple of weeks ago now, and is really, he was running solid, closing in on the top 10 before all the chaos broke out, and that car now all wrinkled up. But definitely going to be a tall order now with no teammates to lean on for the remainder of the season. But good to see him bringing a new partner into the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series here for the coming weeks on that 87 Toyota Camry as we continue to work now. 97 laps complete. Let's take a look down the Gary Mercer Trucking full field rundown. Carl Shedd, your race leader by just a skosh over Mitch Rollo, about 2 car lengths between the top 2. Then it's 2 seconds down to Scott Eckridge in 3rd, leading a train of 4 Steel Horse Racing cars. Greg Evans 4th, Thomas George 5th, Dan Murray is 6th. Then it's Corbin Hemstreet in 7th, Nick Silver 8th, Dwayne Vincent, the defending champ and most recent race winner, in 9th. Joseph Tice rounds out the top 10.
Your biggest mover so far started 31st, now running in 11th. That 99 is Stefan Marinac, having a good run so far as we cross the lap 100 threshold. 20th place qualifier. Another good mover running 12th now is Mike Kelly. DeBarro recovering from that speeding penalty. Was about 17th a couple laps ago. Now he's running 13th, so good moving by him. CJ LeVere in 14th. Daniel Eberhard in that Aegis Motorsports car. And it looks like he's running out of teammates here. Joseph Tice in that 25's up in front of him, but that 90's running in 15th. Nelson Rivera, seeing him slide back just a little bit. Champion of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, Chad Cole running 17th. Glenn Campbell in 18th. Matt Lacrosse, Anthony Fredericks in that 00 running 20th.
Scott Simley led a pack that involved the one of Sean Castro. He got involved with another car just a couple of moments ago. He's going to maintain 22nd. Steve Gottschalk is 23rd. Doug Roth 24th. 25th Kevin Linden. And Adam Blattle is now on pit road after being involved with that one car just a few laps ago. He is going to go a lap down at least. Sean Boundary is 1 lap down in the 34. Christopher Herlow is scored as 2 laps down. Scott Stencil 2 laps down, and Jose Gonzalez is 5 back of the leader.
Yeah, 31st to Tim Matthews, who was the pole sitter back at Daytona. Kyle Taraska, 32nd, and looks to be just about done for the night. He is well back in 32nd. 33rd to Ross Cato, and I believe he, Jimmy North, and Dave Washington are all either on pit road or have pretty well called it quits now for the night. They are listed as off the racetrack here, and that's a look at your 35-car field with now 108 laps complete, and that's your Gary Mercer Trucking full field rundown presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, the experience and expertise that your freight deserves. Learn more at www.gmercer.com. Gary Mercer Trucking, the proud sponsor of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Working now 109, Carl Shedd, your race leader from Mitch Rollo, Scott Eckridge, Greg Evans, and Thomas George giving a great showing for Steel Horse Racing in positions 3 through 5. We are going to step aside for a brief moment. When we come back, we'll be just past the halfway point of the Thunder Valley 225. From Bristol Motor Speedway, you're watching iRacing Live and LSRTV, voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Back here live, lap 120, just crossed the halfway point here in the Thunder Valley 225. Gabriel Wood alongside Jacob Seelman and Tim Terry up here in the booth. Jacob, you finally got up here. Have you caught up with somebody, or are they a little too busy?
Well, we're 120 laps in. Carl Shedd's the race leader and pulling away a little bit from Mitch Rollo, but Jimmy North was one of those whose night kind of got ended a little bit prematurely. Jimmy, first off, talk a little bit about the incident that you got caught up in and kind of what you saw through the early stages of this race as the caution comes out, because we've not seen many of those yellow flags tonight.
That is correct, Jacob. Car, we didn't get a whole lot of practice throughout the week, and especially during the practice session tonight, but, just trying to get a feel for things. The only thing I saw was a couple of cars stack up, went into the corner, hit the brakes, and just couldn't slow down. And got the car in the garage area, getting it fixed up, going to get back out there, pick up a few spots, and then, try and do something, damage control, because we were 14th in points. Having some good runs at California, then last week at Texas, and then have this. We kind of knew coming into it that Bristol was going to be the shake-up race for some drivers, so.
Well, we'll have you hang around with us here for a minute and kind of give a little bit of input from the driver's seat in just a moment. But Gabe, leaders are on pit road, and let's cover the stops, and then we'll focus on why we're under caution.
Carl Shedd pulling into his pit stop first. Pit stall or second pit stall here on pit road. Looks like Rollo almost overshoots his pit stall. Looks like he just barely got in. Should see 4 tires all around for everybody. Right sides go up, right sides go down, and now left sides are going to go up. So that's going to be 4 tire pit stops for everybody. Who's going to win the battle off pit road? It's going to be either that 96 or the 45 because the timing line's a little screwed up. 96. 96
Mitch.
And Mitch Rollo is going to win the battle off pit road.
That's impressive. And why we're under caution, we'll put our crack producer on this, but it started around the 5 of Dan Murray, guys, and he's running solid, but now that's going to be an EOL penalty. He was in the top 5 just before this incident.
He qualified well as well, 6th place on the grid, and he's going to have some work to do in the second half of this race. And Jacob, we've seen 2 green flag runs so far. He's hoping that maybe he can get a couple of cautions, gain a couple of spots, and get back up closer to the front of that field.
So we're working under caution with now 100 laps to go, and I think for all the grief we give him, Cisco finally found exactly what happened. So we'll get that up on replay here in just a moment. Stefan Marinak had help from the 5 of Dan Murray, and Dwayne Vincent had nowhere to go, Gabe, and as Cisco put it to us just a moment ago, pile drove into that one.
Yeah, it's going to be either the end of the night or the beginning of a very tough rest of the night for these guys. As just crossed the lap 125 mark, so 100 laps to go. It's clock starting to count down here, and we're going to start seeing that intensity rack up just a little bit. I think we should have savored the green flag runs while we got them, because it's going to start getting real intense up here at the front, and could see some guys get a little bit tempered up here because we've seen that slide job, not the most favorable of moves.
Under caution with now 99 laps to go when they come back to the stripe. And this is the first lap that Mitch Rollo has led since he gave up the lead on lap 41 after he led the first 40 laps from the pole. So, Tim, this is going to change the game a little bit now for that 96 because it's the first restart since early on in the night that he's had control.
These last couple of restarts, so we've seen the 96 and we've seen the 45 pull away. The 96 in that initial start was really good. The 45 played a little bit of chase, and then they got caught up in lap traffic, and the 45 lost a little bit of track position. See what happens here.
We're ready to roll back to just our third American Ethanol restart of the night as the pace car eases off to the pit lane, and Mitch Rollo, like he was shot out of a cannon, working lap 128, pulls out to a half second before Carl Shedd can really process where he's gone. Battle back behind them as they start to single file it out, but I'm telling you, that was the best restart I've seen by anybody all night.
Oh, DeBar's around.
Three wide does not work at Bristol, Gabe.
It's like we went 3 wide there. We saw the 2. A couple of Steel Horse guys, the 22 or the 23 and the 24, Thomas George and Greg Evans were battling side by side, and DeBar, in an effort to get up front, went 3 wide, and it looked like the 24 just pushed up into the 23 just a little bit and came down the racetrack, and that ended up getting that 9 car upset there on the bottom. He ends up spinning to the inside wall.
And that's going to put us back under caution and put an end to one of the cars, Tim, that we thought was going to be a force to contend with for the victory. But, the speeding penalty is really what started the beginning of the end for Anthony, because it just got him back in traffic, and anything can happen when you're in traffic at Bristol.
And Gabe mentioned it. It's the time now in the race where these guys are going to be a little more aggressive, try to push a little harder, and get to the front of the field. You saw that 3 wide move, the 9 going to the inside, trying to pick up 2 positions. And as we saw what happened, it didn't work out for him. And not sure where the 1 car was going, Jacob, but he could not find the brakes, and he ended up finding the brakes in the way of the 9 car. So that's going to be another one that's probably going to be headed to the garage area for the evening.
Yeah, that was an ugly hit for both of those guys, and it's going to put an end to DeBarro's quest for a 3rd win on the season. But Mitch Rollo, trying to become the first triple winner of the year in this Full Throttle Cup Series, has the advantage to date here as we work lap 132 under the caution flag. And for the pole sitter, he's back up top. And Gabe, what sticks out to me is, we talk about track position being key on short tracks. Track position is key on short tracks. 4 of the top 5 started in the top 5 positions and still run there currently. The only one that started up in the top 5 and is not still there is Anthony DeBarro, and we just saw what happened to him.
Yeah, it took about took 130 laps and a couple of cautions, but your pole sitter is running up front, your outside pole sitter is running second, and the second row inside, third place starter is running third. So top 3 lined up perfectly here since the start. And yeah, Greg Evans started 5th, and then Thomas George started 8th. A couple of those guys wouldn't really say involved in that caution, but they were right there in it. And that 21st starter of Nick Silver in that 51. He's your highest starter so far, or your lowest starter so far inside the top 10. No, I'm looking back here. It looks like CJ LeVere in that 4. He started 32nd, did not put a qualifying time in, and he's running in just inside the top 10.
Well, and look at the rebound too, Tim, for a guy like the 43 of Doug Roth, who started 34th, was a lap down at one point during that first run, and he's back on the lead lap running 15th.
Yeah, you've got some guys that have rebounded here in the second half, and we're not to the checkered flag yet. We're probably going to see some more guys try to make their way a little bit closer towards the front of the field. I like the 21 after, stepping it up, trying to keep on the lead lap in that first run, and we'll have to see if he can step it up a little bit more here as he tries to get a little closer to the top 10.
We're going to have 91 laps to go when we come back to this American Ethanol restart. Mitch Rollo ahead of Carl Shedd, Scott Eckridge, and Greg Evans on row 2. Thomas George and Nick Silver on row 3. And Corbin Hemstreet's still hovering back there in 7th in the Custom Gaming Garage Chevrolet.
Oh,
Green
45
flag
spun
back
tires.
in the air, and Carl Shedd does not go. Don't know if he missed a shift or what, but he stacked the whole outside lane up. Finally falls into 3rd, but he had some reckoning there from behind. Thomas George was ready to go and almost got there.
That 45, I saw it as soon as that happened. That was, spinning his tires coming out of 2nd gear into 3rd. It's exactly what that was. Ended up stacking, a couple of guys behind him, but it's going to allow that 96 and the 70 to get out front. Inside lane ends up paying off for both those drivers. 45 is going to slide back to 3rd. Thomas George works his way up to 4th, so good job on him. Greg Evans slides back to 5th. And then you got Corbin Hemstreet, a little boomtown sandwich here with a bunch of Steel Horse guys at 69. Looks like he was running in 6th. Now he's running in 8th. And Nick Silver ends up making a good move. And also Daniel Eberhardt in that 90 rolls up into 7th.
I think that's the first time that any of us said Eberhardt's name under green flag conditions all night outside of the full field rundown we took 30 laps ago. That he's been almost too quiet, I think, in that 90 car. We're not used to seeing him just be this patient and waiting to make moves, but sometimes that's what it takes here at Bristol. And now 139 laps go up on the board, and he's starting to show some of his cards, running in the 7th position. And having a nice run for Chad Cole, too, the 2013 series champion in the 8 machine. He is quietly held on to a top 10 running position in 9th in that DeWalt entry. The number 8 still looking for that first Full Throttle Cup Series win since 2014, and doing a solid job of it. Doesn't look like he has a race-winning car tonight, but sitting about 3 seconds back of the battle for the lead, which is about to become the 96 versus the 70 of Scott Eckridge. And this is a driver that we've thought was going to get a win here at some point in the next couple of races. Scott Eckridge has been up towards the front. He's been solid. He's done everything right and just hasn't had the brakes fall his way. But Tim, that 70 car looks very good and slowly but surely closing in on the back deck lid of the 96.
The 96 that last time by, though, put a little bit of an advantage on that battle. It's now a half second between himself and the 70 as the 96 has turned up the wick at least the last 2 laps on the 70 of Scott Eckridge. Carl Shedd still back there trying to make up some of the time he lost on that restart, sitting in position number 3, and then it's about a full second back to Thomas George in the number 24 car, who has a little bit of company behind him. You mentioned Eberhardt. Eberhardt now on the back bumper, the 51 of Nick Silver, trying to set up that pass. The 90 has been on the either side of the top 10 most of this race. He's either been just outside the top 10 or just inside the top 10. This is the first time, though, he's really been pouring the pressure on, and now he's just trying to set something up on the 51.
And I want to turn back to Jimmy North, who's been out of the car and has been up here kind of listening quietly in the booth for a little bit. But Jimmy, we've been talking about it almost the whole race, and I started to mention it to you before we had one of those caution flags. But I'm shocked at the turn that this race has taken compared to last year's race here, spring race at Bristol, because we thought we would see a lot more cautions, and what we did see was almost another one. Mitch Rollo went for a huge slide through the corner that time by.
Oh, yeah. I think the majority of all the drivers are around that high lane. It's we got caught down on the bottom there and went down a lap pretty quickly, and there's no momentum down there at all. So I think everybody's kind of around the outside, and I think that's what the major change is compared to last year at this time.
Tim, I want to go back to that slide 2 laps ago for Rollo. It's funny that we're talking about 2 laps already, but that's how quickly they took off. That should have been a caution. He was 45 degrees towards the wall, somehow saved it, and kept the lead.
Yeah, it's a great piece of driving by that number 96, and what was a half second or a 0.6 of a second lead is now about half a car length between himself and Eckridge. And not only is it Eckridge, Carl Shedd is there as well, about a car length behind the 70. We're back to what we saw in that first green flag run of the race. Don't make a mistake, because the guys behind you are right there waiting to set up a pass and try to get back to the front of the field. So if you're the 96, put that behind you, forget about what just happened, and drive your race and hopefully drive away from that number 70, hoping you didn't get your tires angry at you.
Top 3 under a blanket with 72 laps to go. Mitch Rollo leads Scott Eckridge, Carl Shedd, Thomas George, and Greg Evans. And we're going to go LSRTV nonstop since we're beyond the halfway point. You won't miss a thing. We'll be back with more from Bristol right after this. You're watching iRacing Live and LSRTV coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Truck Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Welcome back to iRacing Live and LSRTV coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series on LSRTV. Still leader Mitch Rollo. He has hung on to a tenuous 2-car length advantage through traffic over Scott Eckridge. Man, Gabe, this battle for the lead is getting good with about 62 laps to go when they come to the line. Scott Eckridge wants through, though. You got to wonder when the bump is going to come.
It just came about 2 corners ago. He put the little bit of a love tap to that 96 of Rollo, but I expect a little bit harder of a hit. But you got to be careful with that. These guys running up right there against the wall. He's going to have to be smart about when and where he does it.
And Tim, you know, the old saying on these short tracks, whether it's real life or on the sim, it's a 3-strike rule. First tap, I'm here. Second tap, I want through. You don't want that third tap. Third tap, you're out of the park.
And there's still a couple of laps left to go in this race for those drivers up in front to settle this thing, albeit the 70 has to keep that 96 in touch, and right now he's on his back bumper looking to possibly try to make a move for that lead position. But through all that lap traffic that they just passed, it's lost Carl Shedd from the lead. It's about a second back to the 45 now. He's got a little bit of a cushion on the 23 of Greg Evans. But now, instead of a 3-car battle, at least for the time being, it's a 2-car show up in front, and Mitch Rollo has to continue to have that thing pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, we're down to now about 57 laps to go that time by the stripe, and I'm telling you, these two are not giving it up, Gabe. The battle for the lead, back to the back straightaway, and Scott is not giving it up. He keeps, it's kind of like what we saw the 45 of Carl Shedd doing early on in this race to Rollo. Peaking a half groove lower every turn for a couple of laps, and then shoot to the bottom when it's time, or like Shedd did, wait until you get into traffic. The problem is there's no traffic in the immediate vicinity. These two are kind of left to battle it out.
Well, you know what? If we stay clean and green here, we're going to have some time to get into some traffic. Looks like I see one out of the corner of my eye there. But yeah, I don't see many opportunities. I mean, that 70, you know, he could put the bump, but as I said, that's going to be very dangerous. If that 96 hits the wall, that could damage the front end of that 70. As we know, iRacing's pretty sensitive with their damage model, especially toward the radiator area.
It's getting good. The first lap car going to be the 91 of Steve Gottschalk, who is about a second ahead of these leaders. They're closing quickly on he and Sean Bounty. That's 20th and 21st right now. But these two leaders are not giving each other any heed. And the second tap, I think, just came a moment ago from Scott Eckridge. He wants through, and if he gets back to the 96, I foresee there may be a bump and run for the race lead.
Yeah, that 70 is right there waiting to pounce if that 96 makes another mistake. And keep in mind, we saw that 45-degree slide from the 96. We've seen him have a couple of corner exits like that one there. Not exactly pristine. The 70 is waiting for another one of those mistakes. It looks like the 70 might have a little bit of a better car at this point. And oh, by the way, here's some traffic to throw into the mix.
Yeah, they have caught Steve Gottschalk in the 91, and this is about to get really, really fun because not only have we caught traffic, we're inside of 50 laps to go across the stripe. It'll be 49 laps remaining. This time by Scott Eckridge is there. The battle for the lead is on. They head back to turn one.
Where's the lap cars? Oh, Eckridge into the wall. Looks like he's going to gather it up, though. He's maybe even gained a little bit there off of it. End up pointing it down to the bottom side of the racetrack, but where's that 91 going to go? Where is he kind of going to run? Is he going to run to the bottom and let these leaders go, or is he going to make it difficult on him? Looks like he's going to make it a little bit difficult running down middle lane, not wanting to run up there against the wall. Maybe an opportunity, maybe at that 70. Oh, I've heard just a little bit something. That 91 of Gottschalk and the 70 of Eckridge are teammates.
They're both Steel Horse Racing teammates, and I can promise you that's why Gottschalk, he knows who's in his rearview mirror right now, Tim, and he is not going to give any aid because he's able to race to try and stay on the lead lap here as well. But Rolo's got to look to the inside. I think he's going to make it work. He does.
And here comes the 70, and the 70 has a little bit of an easier time with that lap traffic, and now they come up on the 48, and oh, by the way, the 45 has reeled these guys in once again, 70 to the inside of the 48, and now the 45 will try to do the same. 70 tried to look on the inside for the lead there, but a great move off the corner for the 96.
And Mitch scraped the wall last time by. We're looking at 44 laps to go when they cross the stripe here. And this has been maybe one of the most electric Bristol races in the history of this series. Not a lot of trouble from cautions. The battle for the lead has been in and out of traffic all night long, and it is closing in for maybe a bit of a barn-burning finish. 42 laps to go when they get back to the stripe next time. And a teammate coming for the 96 of Mitch Rolo, Sean Bounty, maybe going to give him a bit of a pass here to the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of maybe a little payback here for that 70 and the 91 to Gottschalk, and Eckridge there kind of held up the 96, almost gave the 70 a chance to get by. Maybe that 34 is going to get by and then pull up and make life a little bit difficult for that 70 at Eckridge. Looks like it's not going to happen. Here comes that run. Here comes the 34. He's going to let him go. No. Yeah. Nope. There he goes. Yep. This is it. Yep. As soon as, just like we predicted, makes it a little bit difficult, but it's not really going to help anything as he dives it down to the inside. But that 70, he's to the back bumper again. Gets a little bit squirrely there off of turn 4 coming to the line. At 70, he's a little bit quicker than that 96, I think, off of 3 and 4. And 96 of Rolo legs it out just a bit coming off of 2. And both those guys squirrely, and 70 Scott Eckridge is the one who hits the wall.
These cars are driving horrible right now. They both got a piece of the wall that time through 3 and 4. Rolo almost gets another piece of the wall. I mean, they are sliding all over the racetrack right now, trying to hold on to it. And you can't pit now with 38 laps to go. Really, if we get a caution, you want to keep your track position. So these guys have got what they got, and they got to fight race cars right now, Tim, that are just absolutely not doing what they need them to do.
Both cars might be driving terrible, but that 70 car is driving a little bit better than that number 96 right now when you saw it a slap by around that corner. The 70 now has a little bit of space to reel in with that 96, but that 70 car just a touch better than the 96. But I'll disagree with you on one point, Jacob. If the caution were to happen now, I think they all come on to pit road.
You know what? I thought about it after I said it, and you may be right there, Tim. I think we've had enough laps on these tires that, and we're seeing how bad they're sliding around right now, Gabe. They're getting the outside wall just about every lap. I mean, if you get the opportunity to make your car handle better for a 20 or a 25 lap sprint to the finish, you got to take it here. We're inside of 35 laps to go now, and Carl Shedd has started to reel these top two in, and even with a tiny bit of cave-in on the front end, Scott Eckridge is still driving that car better than Mitch Rollo right now.
Well, I mean, we were talking about it before we went live here on LSR TV in the pre-race. Stefan Marinak, he's not having the best nights. He hasn't been able to get inside the top 10, got close to it, and then kind of fell back. He was the number one practicer. He had an absolutely amazing lap, a 14.760, which is 0.2 faster than everybody else. But he hit the wall, and he was able to pivot that car down. So he was 0.2 faster just by doing that and hitting the wall. So that just goes to show what you can do with that outside wall. And, the 70 of Scott Eckridge, he may use it to get past that 96.
It's odd that we talk about hitting the wall actually making you go faster, but again, that's the nuance that is Bristol Motor Speedway. And still an electric battle for the race lead. 30 laps to go when we get back to the line. Eckridge wants through. Oh, he almost loses it. Going down into the corner, grabs the apron, hangs onto it, but he loses a ton of time to the race leader, Tim.
Yeah, and he's done that a couple of times, but not that bad. He's going to have to reel in that 96. Question is, how many heat cycles on these tires can that 70 handle? And by the way, we're closing in on 25 laps to go. He can't keep doing that. Carl Shedd is behind here about a second, and it seems like he yo-yos between a second and a half second from the leaders as they go through traffic. This is going to be an exciting finish coming down to the end of it. But the 70 looks like he's reeling back in that 96. He's not missing a beat until something like that happens about 4 laps ago.
Well, the hard part is you try to force a mistake out of the race leader, but you try to do that. Maybe, Gabe, you drive it a little bit harder than you would normally, and sometimes that can lend to a mistake in your own right. But Scott Eckridge has again... Oh, they both get into the wall off turn 2. We're closing in on 25 to go, and Eckridge again reeling him in. And like we said, these cars are driving horrible right now. If anything, Carl Shedd, even though he's a second back, may be the best handling car on the racetrack.
I swear, I think we're going to get to the point where these guys, they beat down these doors NASCAR 2003 style, where you can just see the roll bars, because they are just grinding it down every time they go into the corner, and they got 4 chances to do it every lap. And as they get around that 84, he's going to duck low, so he's going to let these guys get out of the way. 70 up into the wall again, right on cue. Doesn't seem to hurt him. He's to the back bumper of that through turns 3 and 4.
Well, it's 24 laps to go, and there's no holding back now. If this goes green to the end, Tim, I really think at some point, if you're the 70 of Scott Eckridge, you're going to find a way by. That car is driving better than the 96 of Rollo. He takes a peek right here. It's just the only way he's going to get by him on the bottom is if he pulls the slide job, and the question's going to be, does he have enough space to do it?
He's bashing the thing off the wall. He's bashing the thing off the rear bumper of the 96. He's getting the thing completely sideways, and it's still driving better than the 96 car of Mitch Rollo. The 70 of Scott Eckridge, he's got to find a way around him. You're right. If I was him, with the way this race looks, with the green flag feel to it, I'd find my way around as quickly as I can, especially because every time it seems like, Jacob, he catches the 96, something happens. He's off the wall or it gets loose. If I'm the 70, I want to try to make my way by now.
You've got to, because I think the only way Scott Eckridge is going to win this race is to be able to be the car that controls this race, because as long as Mitch Rollo is able to see what Eckridge is doing out the rear view mirror, he can play defense, Gabe, and that's the key with now 20 to go.
See what we get here inside 15 laps to go is going to get good here. Or inside 20 to go, I should say. It's going to get good here. Scott Eckridge finally reels him in yet again. It's been just kind of an accordion effect ever since as the 96 goes into the wall. 96 goes into the wall there. We're debating when he's going to make that move. You have to remember, even if he does put the bumper to the 96 and gets by and gets that lead, who says that 96 just doesn't turn on the afterburners and catch him? He's got the opportunity to do the exact same move as the 70 gets into the wall on the straightaway.
Yeah, and Mitch Rollo's getting held up bad by the 33 of Glenn Campbell right here. You gotta make a move. He goes to the bottom of the racetrack. Campbell fighting to stay on the lead lap in 17th, and Eckridge gonna catch the 33 at a really bad spot down the straightaway. That allows Rollo to pull away a little bit. Now Eckridge gonna clear, but Rollo's gonna have a ton of straightaway speed, make the gap a half second.
We've seen this gap before, though. The 70's been able to reel him back in. There's 15 laps to go. And now the 70, if he can continue to do what he's done over the last 50 laps or so, he should be able to catch the 96. The Achilles heel has been trying to get past the number 96. It's going to get exciting in these last 14 laps of this one. As long as they can keep it off the wall and keep it off themselves, this thing is going to come down to probably the last lap.
You know what? It's been a long time since we've been able to say that here at Bristol. The last 3 races in this series that have run at this racetrack have ended under the caution flag. So, you know, a good old short track shootout's exactly what we need. 13 laps to go. Top 2 have a second and a half on Carl Shedd in third place, and it's 4 seconds. Back to a good battle for fourth between Greg Evans and Nick Silver. But all eyes on the leaders right now with a dozen to go, and Eckridge is there in turn 3.
He's there for the 96 gets into the wall hard, and it's going to turn him down the racetrack. He ends up catching it. Uses that momentum, turning down the banking, use it to his advantage. They make it through turns 1 and 2 without hitting it, so good on them. First time in a little while we've seen that, but you know, I want to talk about that 45 of Carl Shedd as this battle's going on. He's got to be looking at these guys going, come on. How many times are you going to hit the wall before you wreck? I want second. I want first. Come on, somebody wreck.
I'll be honest, Tim, if I'm Carl Shedd, and maybe this has been his philosophy, hovering back there thinking that these two are gonna wreck, and they just haven't yet.
I think Carl Shedd's fallen off the pace a little bit of these two, though. He was keeping it within a second or so of these top 2, and now he's fallen to 2.9 seconds. He had a huge slide that last time by from the top 2, so Carl Shedd needs a little bit of help, and he might need a little bit of help keep the couple of positions there as he's mired in lap traffic, and a battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th as well. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. Greg Evans has his hands completely full with now the 24 of Thomas George, who's entered the top 5.
Yeah, and that's a good battle right now between 2 teammates and Nick Silver, who's put up a great run tonight in that 51 gain car. He's 6th, but 7 laps to go when we get back to the line, and still Rollo and Eckridge separated by a car length. If you're gonna go, you gotta go soon. About 3.5 miles to go. This time by, they head back to 1 with Rollo eking that advantage out a tiny bit that time.
You just said it a couple seconds ago, Jacob. You know, these guys, the past 3 races they've had here at Bristol have ended under caution. We're approaching that threshold now, and here it is, lap 2, 25 laps to go. We get a caution now. It is over the 96. Pack it up. He is your winner, but we're not going to see a caution here in the last couple of laps. We're going to see these guys battle it out for the finish.
Oh, it's getting good. 5 to go. One hand from the flag stand this time by. The gap is a car length and change. And for Scott Eckridge, Tim, he got loose that time by, headed for 1. He's really got to gather it up. I think he may only get 1 or maybe 2 more really good shots at this.
And if he does get a shot and the 96 is in the way, he's got to make sure that he's not in the way. The 70's got some really good runs off these corners, like this one right here, bump to the back of the 96, but can't do anything with him and doesn't want to turn the 96. He doesn't want to win a race that way, but he's going to have to get a run and try to maybe move the 96, maybe jack up his wheels a little bit and just move him out of the lane.
That's all he can do, because if it causes a caution under the RSR incident point system, it would cost Eckridge the victory. Rollo into the wall. Here comes the 70 of Eckridge to the inside, coming to 2 laps to go. They're wheel-to-wheel in turn 1.
Not going to happen there on the inside of the racetrack, Jacob. It's just not going to work for that 70. He's going to have 1 more shot at it if he can get a run.
White flag this time by. Rollo may have enough of a gap. They have to come back to turn 1 for the final time. It's a car length and change in the lap car of Doug Roth. Oh, Rollo got loose off turn 2. Eckridge goes by. Is it a last lap pass? Yes, it will be. Scott Eckridge off turn 4. Gonna lead 1 lap all night, but it's the one that pays. Eckridge wins at Bristol.
Oh my gosh.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, I have never seen anything.
I don't even, and Tim, we were all watching this. I'm not sure exactly if Rollo just got loose or.
Is the 96 out of fuel? He has not. He's not sped up since off of turn 2 on that last lap. That car, it's either out of fuel or it's sputtering.
His teammate Anthony DeBarro just said he was out of fuel. Oh my gosh! We didn't think fuel was going to be an issue. It's wow. I don't know what to say, but that last caution was at lap 129. We went 96 laps on that final run, Gabe, and I don't think any of us really thought fuel was going to be an issue. I'm shocked.
I mean, we were talking to Andy Kessler, the crew chief on that 98. David Washington got taken out early in the race. He said the last time he checked, we were about 30 or 40 laps into a run. He was reading 90 plus laps on his fuel, so it had to have gone away in the past couple laps.
Wow. We're going to try to gather our thoughts here. A last lap pass at Bristol, and Scott Eckridge burning it down on the front straightaway. He is your winner in Thunder Valley, and we'll hear from an ecstatic driver of the Post-Venom Camry when we come back in an unbelievable turn of events. You're watching iRacing Live and LSR TV, the voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to iRacing Live and LSRTV. Time for the Gary Mercer Trucking post-race show here tonight after a stunning turn of events on the final lap at Bristol. Scott Eckridge wins the Thunder Valley 225 as Mitch Rollo, the fuel cell, runs dry in turn 2 on the final lap. A short fill that we'll hear from him about here in just a couple of minutes. Being his undoing. But we're going to take a look at the gmercer.com full field rundown at the end of this one. Eckridge over Rollo for the win. Carl Shedd finishing third, his best run of the season. Greg Evans fourth. Nick Silver, a great top 5 for that team after he started 21st. Thomas George is 6th. Daniel Eberhard, a quiet 7th. It's about as high as he got all night, but Corbin Hemstreet hangs around and comes away with an 8th place finish. Chad Cole and CJ LeVere, the rest of the top 10.
Looks like the 4 and the 21 tied for your biggest movers of the race, started 32nd and 33rd respectively. Looks like that 21 of Matt Lacrosse gets a good recovery, ends up finishing in 11th. 12th, Dan Murray. Stefan Marinac recovers from sliding back there. I believe he was in a wreck, so he ends up 13th. Scott Simley in 14th. Joseph Tice in 15th. Nelson Rivera. Glenn Campbell. Sean Boundy ends up 1 lap down as well as Glenn Campbell. Anthony Fredericks in that 00. Steve Gottschalk ends up 1 lap down in 20th.
21st and 22nd, both 1 lap down. That's Kevin Linden and Doug Roth. Jose Gonzalez is 5 laps down. Tim Matthews, 10 laps down. Adam Blattle. If we keep on going down the list, these drivers are multiple laps down. Ross Cato, Mike Kelly, Christopher Hurlow, Scott Stencil, and, of course, Anthony DeBarrow back there in 30th place. He was running in the top 5 for the first half of this race and then had that incident midway through this Thunder Valley 225.
Yeah, DeBarro, a tough run after leading some laps early on. Sean Casto, involved in that same incident, ends up 31st, 32nd to the Texas winner Dwayne Vincent and the defending champion. Jimmy North 33rd, got back out to complete a few more laps. Kyle Taraska 34th, and Dave Washington, first man out of this race. Really a tough run for that team, but that's a look at your gmercer.com full field results. Gary Mercer Trucking, the experience and expertise that your freight deserves. And we've made our way to Gatorade Victory Lane, where how about a first-time winner at Bristol? Scott Eckridge, you tried for the better part of 50 laps to do anything with the back bumper of Mitch, couldn't do anything with him, and then off turn 2, the fuel cell runs dry, and you're able to take advantage. What's going through your mind on that last lap?
I was just in complete, total disbelief. I had just pretty much resigned to finishing second for the second week in a row, and I couldn't believe it.
Walk me through that last run, because, we watched you lap after lap after lap after lap. You tried everything. There were about 8 shots that I counted to Mitch's back bumper, and you couldn't move him, and obviously you don't want to wreck him under the incident points system, but, how tough was it sitting back there knowing you're literally beating the bumper off, and he still can't get loose enough for you to take advantage?
Oh, yeah, we were just... I figured it just, the inside line just wasn't going to work. It just did not come in on that race. So I figured I would stay behind him, stay real close to him, give him a couple shots on the straightaway, and see if I couldn't get him to make his own mistake and get in front of him that way.
You make it work. First career victory comes in the most improbable of fashions. How much does it mean to you, Scott, after being so close and having some successful runs in the Winter Series as a rookie to come in and in just round number 7 pick up your first career Full Throttle Cup Series victory?
Oh, it feels amazing, especially after last week with, just throwing it away at the end there, and I just feels amazing. I'm so happy to finally got one in.
And I know there's a lot of people and partners that I'm sure you want to get a chance to thank. Who makes it happen for Scott Eckridge and this 70 Toyota Camry team?
Just like to thank Steel Horse Racing and the RSR League for putting this on every week and, making sure we can run and organizing everything.
It's a very happy Scott Eckridge. He pulls off the victory tonight at Bristol Motor Speedway, leads only 1 lap, but it's the one that counts. On the other end of that coin, though, he leads 140 of 225 laps, and the final lap, it comes dry, and Tim Terry, I believe, trackside, you've caught up with Mitch Rollo.
Trollo a little dejected down here, but dominated the race, finished in position number 2 in a race at Bristol that we're not used to seeing a lot of green flag runs. Did you expect a lot of green flag racing in this one?
Absolutely not. And that's what I was banking on, with taking a little bit less fuel there for that last run. Because I was expecting it, maybe get a 20, 40 lap run at best. And then, unfortunately, it just went green all the way, and I came up a half a lap short on fuel, and that one's going to sting for a while for sure.
I'll tell you, though, you in the 70 car and those last 90 laps put on an incredible show. You guys were throwing it off the wall, and it was about halfway through that run, you had that thing completely sideways pointing towards the infield. I don't know how you saved that thing.
Yeah, so big thanks to Scott for not running me over there. He easily could have just turned me or whatever there, so I appreciate him staying off me there. But yeah, I did everything I could to keep the car straight, or get the car back straight, I should say, and fortunately I did. And second place, I don't think is ever going to hurt so much. That was just heartbreaking. I can't believe I lost that like that.
But overall, a really good night, finishing in position number 2 when you look back at this race. Good point night overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good that we have the speed. That's obviously what we're looking for, and I'm super excited for next week at Richmond.
You get to take a little bit of momentum into the short track coming up next week. Are you excited to get that thing into victory lane at Richmond?
Yeah, I hope I can bring it to victory lane. Usually, I have okay stats at Richmond. It's definitely not one of my best tracks, though, but I'll practice up this week with the team, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll go from there.
And who do you got on this team and on this car that helps you week in and week out at the racetrack?
Obviously everyone at Boomtown Sim. We gotta thank Jared Como, Sean Boundy, Corbin Hemstreet, Anthony DeBarro, Ben Kilcrease. I gotta thank my sponsors, Pit Stop Designs. Everyone on this team contributes, and I couldn't be more blessed to be part of this team. So big thanks to everyone at Boomtown Sim.
And that's Mitch Rollo coming home in position number 2, but nothing to hang his head about. Led the most laps here this evening, finished in second, and an incredible battle for the lead position. A driver that was trying to reel them in late in the race is Carl Shedd, and he's standing by with Gabe.
Down here in the pit for that 45 of Carl Shedd, and Carl, congratulations. Best run of the year for that car. He brought it home third, and like Tim said just a second ago, you were just watching those guys battle it out for that win. You're kind of hoping you can get up there, but you got to say a third place finish against these guys, that's pretty good. Pretty good finish.
Yeah, it was a great finish. It's wonderful to finish one. We've had some bad luck here for the last few weeks. We were joking before to just get the record ready, the kind of week we had. So yeah, those guys were putting on a good show up there, man. I was pretty content with third, and they were getting really close and rubbing on each other. So me and my spotter were just thinking, hey, let them go at it, and we'll see what happens. Mitch running out of gas was nuts. I would have never seen that coming.
Yeah, speaking of Mitch running out of gas, were you one of the guys that were kind of under-fueling the car to make it to the finish, but have a good car, or did you fill it up with the 18.7 gallons?
I think we put 7 or 8 in because we knew we were close before that stop, so we put just 4 or 5 since we were taking 4 tires anyway. We figured we'd get a splash, so we were really good on fuel.
All right, Carl, and you said you've had a run of bad luck. From what I hear from some of your teammates, you were to the point of quitting. I don't know if that was a joke or not, but this has got to be a little confidence boost. Finally having a good run, having the luck go your way.
Yeah, in the heat of the moment, you can be. I could be a little crybaby there about it a little bit. So. Sometimes things happen that are out of your control. I had a computer failure there at California. Thankfully, I didn't hurt anybody else there. Got taken out the first lap of Martinsville, got caught up in some people's mess in Texas. It was just very frustrating. We know we can run top 10, top 5. So tonight here, a rough track. We were just happy to take a finish. So to finish podium, I think my teammates at Aegis, Daniel, Dave, and Joseph, it's been a lot of fun running with them. Just happy to finally put some points on the board. on my behalf.
Now, I got to say, there's one certain producer up in the LSR TV trailer that's pretty glad to see you end up on the third step of the podium, Carl. I know you thank your teammates, but any other sponsors, any shout-outs you got?
I'd like to thank Aegis Motorsports. We got Cisco up here helping us out. We'd like to thank him. And if I forgot you, you can beat me later, flog me.
All right, Carl, congratulations. That third place, Carl Shedd in that 45 machine. Expect to see him up front. Hopefully that streak of bad luck is over. Jacob, I'm going to work my way back up to the booth before we get it done here from Bristol.
Oh, man, and I have to collect my thoughts and try to figure this out, Tim. Just a handful of cautions tonight, an unbelievable finish, an unbelievable race, really. I mean, what sticks out to you from this one? Because everything we thought we knew going into this race is exactly the opposite of what we actually saw tonight.
An incredible battle at the end of it, and not only just the last 25 laps or so, but for that full run to the finish of 90 or so laps, the 96 and the 70 going at it. And it wasn't just the 96 pulling away or the 70 being there. They were bouncing each other off the wall. The 70 was giving the 96 a push down the straightaway more times than not, and then the 96 ending up running out of fuel. Stings for him, but they can't hang their heads. Beautiful battle up in front. Carl Shedd was a part of it for most of the night as well. And you look back through the field, the 21 of Matt Lacrosse was almost going a lap down in the first run, comes back to finish 11th in the race. DeBarro had a strong run as well, but had that ended in the middle point of the race. Congratulations to Scott Eckridge and this whole field. Fantastic race from Bristol, and tip of the cap to everybody in it for keeping it green.
Oh, it was a great race, Gabe. This is arguably, I think, and I heard Steve Herring say it in the race control booth before he stepped out at the end of this one, arguably the best race that this series has ever put on at this racetrack. And, you know, you can't ask for any more in a finish like this. A last lap pass, no major contact between any of the front players for the win. All in all, a tremendous night and a huge first-time winner. Scott Eckridge is in the chase now.
Yeah, exciting. You know, excited for him getting in the chase this early, first-time win for him in the Full Throttle Cup Series. Been close a lot of times here, you know, like we said in the first couple laps. Finally gets it done here tonight. And yeah, this has really been one of the better Bristol races we've seen. I mean, it's just natural at Bristol, guys driving over their heads. And what do we have? Maybe four cautions? You know, I think, what was the number from last year? 18? I mean, that's staggering.
A tremendous night here at Bristol. And again, our congratulations from LSRTV go out to Scott Eckridge and Steel Horse Racing, who finally get their first win of the season after a tough start and heartbreak for Mitch Rollo in the Concrete Coliseum as he runs dry with a half lap to go, finishes second, and I believe unofficially assumes the points lead now as we continue down the road. And we'll be back here next Monday night to continue it on here for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. Right now, though, a thanks to our partners here with Real Sim Racing and, of course, Sim Experience, Sim Vibe, and Gary Mercer Trucking for helping to make this broadcast possible. So right now, for Brennan Mercer, John Abbott, Steve Herring, and the fine folks at RSR, along with Tim Terry and Gabe Wood, Cisco Scaramuza down in the production trailer, I'm Jacob Seelman reminding you to keep it off the wall until we meet again, and we'll see you next time on the web. Congratulations to Scott Eckridge, your winner in Thunder Valley.